Bob Fields, Director of Member Services here at PMA, and I want to welcome you to this another one of our ongoing series of web seminars. Today we're going to talk about social media and how it can power your product launches, and I've got a great duo here from PMA members Buzz Agent to talk to you just about how all that can work. But before we get started, I did want to give you my standard sort of walkthrough of the environment for those of you who are new to GoToWebinar. You are now in a listen-only mode, which means we can't hear you. You can't talk to other participants on the call right now. If you are anticipating that you will have some questions at the end of the session, what I'm going to suggest you do is that you go to the audio section of your toolbox, click Use Telephone, and dial in via the telephone, making sure to enter both the access code and the audio pin that pops up there. That way I'll be able to unmute you in the event that you do have questions. Now, as questions come up during the session, I'm going to encourage you to go down to the question area, type them in, and we'll just answer them in order that they come at the end of the session. And then while Malcolm and Brian are answering, I'll look to see if you are actually listening via your phone, and if I can unmute you, you can certainly ask a follow-up, and we can get a little bit more interactivity going there, okay? So before we get started, I do want to introduce you to our speakers today, Malcolm Folds and Brian Cavoli, both of Buzz Agent. Malcolm is the Senior Vice President of Marketing for Buzz Agent, and he is the person who's tasked with developing market interest in all the things that Buzz Agent offers. Prior to Buzz Agent, he was at Velastis and worked with Seth Godin at Yoyodyne before it got acquired by Yahoo. So, you know, he's been around the interactive space for a minute. Brian Cavoli, its Director of Marketing, is also with us today. He is, prior to Buzz Agent, he was the Director of Marketing at TNS Symphony, one of the industry's first and largest social media monitoring and analysis organizations. He also comes out of the media side of the business, having spent some time at MPG and also at Kara. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Brian and Malcolm, and we're going to hear about consumer-powered product launches. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Rob. We're excited to be here. This is our first PMA webinar, so we're looking forward to getting much more involved in the organization, and as part of that, we're going to be at the Game Changer event next month, so we hope that you guys are there and hope to meet a lot of you in person. So that's going to be something to look forward to. I'm here with Malcolm Folds. He's been involved in many product launches over the years here at Buzz Agent. Hey, Malcolm.
Hello, and hello to everyone out there in the webinar. We're excited to be here.
And as Rob mentioned, we want this to be very interactive. You know, this is fun for us, too, when we're getting a lot of questions from you guys and really diving down deep into the topics that you care about most. So please use that questions box to the right side of your screen. Send them in. Rob will queue them up, and we'll get through them all at the end of the discussion. And if you happen to be on Twitter by any chance and you want to share some thoughts, feel free to use the hashtag BuzzAgent, and we'll keep the conversation going after the event. So today's topic is the social media product launch. If you think back to some of the most memorable product launches in recent history, what made them great? It's probably because they've been very effective at getting people excited about the product. There was a groundswell of buzz that you could feel, which probably drove you to go check it out, which you probably did online, where you probably came across a lot of other content created by other consumers out there sharing their experiences, sharing videos, just talking about why they're excited about this. So that's what we're talking about today, and everyone on this call knows that it takes a lot more than a good product to have a successful launch. It takes the support of consumers, for them to become advocates for your company, to spread your message, to share product reviews and recommendations, and really influence the purchase decisions of many other people. And so social media participation is key to building that advocacy, but it can be so much more. And that's what we're going to discuss here when we talk about 12 ways that consumer advocates can drive sales for your new product. So let's start off by taking a look at what a typical launch pattern looks like. While buzz is wonderful, what's really important is driving sales. And in a standard product launch, this probably looks familiar to a lot of you, where it starts off strong, you build some momentum, but then over time things start to fade as the message loses steam.
And I think that we've seen that of all the products launched each year, which can be thousands, about 80% of them fail on introduction. So while people are hoping for a more robust launch, the fact is that that doesn't happen for all brands.
Right, and that's where social media can help. Here's where adding consumer involvement early in the process and keeping it going throughout the entire launch can do a lot to build sales earlier. And really where you see here is when sales start to trail off, you're going to want to see it increase. And getting consumers involved in that can make this happen. So that pivot point where the sales start to increase, can be the difference between the success or failure of a product launch. And as Malcolm mentioned, studies have shown that depending on the industry, about 80% of new product launches fail. A lot of them follow that same mass media formula, and they hope for consumer acceptance. Here we want to build that advocates, sustain them over the long term, because we know consumers will go to great lengths to support the brands that they believe in, if you give them the tools and the communications and the resources they need so they can do it. And so what we say here is that marketers who encourage active consumer participation early, listen to what's being discussed, have the best chance for a successful and highly profitable launch. So to do this, you need to rethink the process a little bit. So here's another view of a traditional product launch cycle through the different stages, similar to the diagram that we saw earlier. It's a very logical, a very linear process that kind of has a sad ending, unfortunately.
Wow.
So what we want to do is change that ending. And so we think about things a little bit differently. When social media is brought into a launch cycle, we think of it as more of a cyclical process because social media is inherently nonlinear. It's a conversation. Conversations evolve. Themes change and they grow. And this is what we're creating here, is focusing on building that conversation. And so we simplified the process into these three phases. Of course, the pre-launch, the actual launch when the product is in market, and then the post-launch stage as you're kind of evaluating the success of the program and then using the momentum for the promotion of relaunches or product extensions or other things that this group of advocates could do for you. And so to do that, we boiled this down to a series of 12 steps that can apply throughout the entire process. So first, let's take a look at the pre-launch. There's a lot here that you can learn from. Here's the time you want to test and learn, adjust where possible, and then what you do here can really save you a lot of expense, complication, and even embarrassment down the road, because in the social media world, we don't want to underestimate the potential of embarrassment. So let's get started. The first one is to crowdsource great ideas. This is the idea of using an external community to create ideas from feedback, opinions, maybe from a group of people, because all products start with a really great idea, and they don't have to come from within inside your organization, and they don't always have to be small ideas. A couple of great examples of that is you're probably all familiar with the My Starbucks idea. They created this community where they wanted to collect opinions and product ideas and recommendations from all the Starbucks fans around the world, and this has been tremendously successful. One report said that about 315 ideas have been implemented in the 2 years or so that this program has been alive. If you visit the site, you can see here's a few of the ideas and actions, and they give these little icons for what's already been implemented, what's in the works, or what's under consideration. So it's a great way to go see what people are talking about, and a great way to submit your point of view and your opinions on it as well. And you can see here with some of the ones that have been checked, these are recommendations that they've already put into play. Another one that does really great with crowdsourcing is the Pepsi company. They've done a few high-profile campaigns over the year. One was where they invited people to design their Pepsi can. They had people come to this microsite they created where they could upload images and create graphics and create their own can and share it with their friends. Another very high-profile one is Doritos and Pepsi have both gone out to get consumers to help actually create their Super Bowl ad. Doritos been doing this for 4 years or so now, and Pepsi Max just starting to do it this past year. The Doritos ad that was created by consumers was actually tied for the #1 most popular ad in USA's ad meter.
So in addition to the tangible ideas that Starbucks is generating and the commercials that Pepsi is generating, both these brands are also creating immeasurable goodwill with consumers. Consumers are feeling like they're being invited inside the marketing tent. They're being made extensions of the marketing team. And that's a lot of fun for consumers. They want to be involved. They want to participate. They want to be heard. And that's a lot of what our business is based on and what we've learned that consumers get excited about.
And another great example of this is what Cisco is doing. And they're opening up a contest for the next billion-dollar business. And so they've got groups of people around the world submitting new business ideas that Cisco should implement. And the winners of this get a $250,000 prize to go and help to build their idea. They've run this effort for 2 years now, and the last one that just wrapped up a few months ago had almost 3,000 participants from 156 countries, and about 825 ideas were submitted. So it's great to see the community really rally around this and come up with some interesting ideas. Some of the ideas that were submitted were cashless payment systems with mobile phones, using the internet to reduce traffic jams and reduce carbon monoxide by connecting traffic lights and cameras and road sensors to the internet.
Heady stuff.
It is. The one that won was something called the Life Account that actually gathers information from users through connected devices in the physical world and combines that with online data in the virtual world. So I think they do this every year.
It's not just for making commercials, right?
Saving lives here. So another way that you can use social media is to test marketing messages, because consumers will tell you what they like and don't like about your product. A program we did with Wrigley's a little bit ago was with the launch of their Orbit gum. And before it went out, they tested their packaging with certain audience segments across the country. Instead of kind of a closed-door focus group, they put the product out there to the hands of consumers. They tested it. They gathered feedback. They compared opinions between males and females in different geographic areas.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're going after sometimes a tough market here. So part of their target is teen males in addition to other groups. But, while they did invest in a package that's easier to open and protects the gum better, we weren't prepared for the number of people who wanted the gum to stay dry even when you put it through the washing machine. So, that was useful feedback for the brand, and that's something they can work on. But consumers will share a lot of feedback, and that's what we learned time and time again.
And so in this case, it was very constructive and positive, but hasn't always been the case. There's a few examples here that everyone's probably aware of where consumers weren't connected earlier in the process, and something as simple as a packaging or logo relaunch really upset and infuriated a lot of people. One of the most high-profile ones was the Tropicana redesign last year, and they put out a new design, and consumers hated it. And as a result, sales dropped 20%, which cost the company tens of millions of dollars in lost sales. So they went back to the old design and lost a lot of money and got a lot of bad press because of it.
That didn't work out.
Another high-profile example that didn't work out was The Gap, typically a company you think of as being very in tune with social media, but here they introduced a new logo to be more contemporary and modern-looking, but people hated it, and they pushed back on it. So what the company did was they crowdsourced afterwards and said, if you have ideas, send them in, but it was really too late. There was a lot of negativity out there, and so the company just scrapped the the idea and the logo and kind of went back to their old logo.
So I think what we're seeing here is that consumers think that the brand equity is a shared asset between the brand and themselves. So something like juice, that's an intimate product. You wake up each day, you start your day with that juice. You expect that to have a certain personality. Or you trust Gap to provide a certain product, and you trust them to be a certain thing. And when the brand starts messing with that, especially without involving your opinion, you can feel betrayed. And that's a lot of what we see. Social media gives people the expectation that they can participate in shaping these brands, but when they aren't asked to be involved, it gives them a powerful venue for sharing their displeasure.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this a little bit. And one of the things that Gap did really well here is they were listening. They were paying attention to consumers. They heard it. They tried to respond, and then they made a quick decision and pull it back. I mean, this all happened within a period of about a week. So while they reacted, they probably didn't lose a lot of sales, and they were able to respond quickly. The third practice is to gather feedback early. Sometimes it's just not the packaging that's broken. Consumers can identify problems and manufacturing flaws early. So if you're in this pre-launch stage, it makes sense to get the product out to some people who could test it because they can uncover some flaws that slip through the cracks. One example of that was a single-serve coffee maker.
An unnamed brand
coffee maker that we had sent out to some agents to review, and it turns out that the product, the power cord was faulty, caused sparks, and in some cases, small fires.
So this is one of our clients. They wanted to get people to give feedback on this not yet released product. The product was faulty. It caught on fire. People weren't happy with that dark roasted coffee. But they let us know. And because we had a listing system, we were able to get ahead of that and identify what the manufacturing problem was. And thank God that was something that didn't go to market like that.
Another product was a hair straightener we work with that actually burned people's hair. And so that was one you can see caused people a lot of frustration, and one that was able to get caught earlier. So the company was able to pull it back, make changes before it was too late.
One of the things that we found out is that people who have problems with products can spread negative buzz, but if you're listening to them and if you make the situation right, if you amend things, they will be positive advocates for you. So if you can turn someone around, they will spread good word of mouth for you, and that can travel quickly across social media.
So now all your prep work is done, the plans are in place, you got all your feedback from your package messaging and your product messaging, and you crowdsourced some great ideas. Now it's time for launch. It's time to hit the market and really focus on moving sales. And so here are a few ideas for enabling consumers to really be your best salespeople, your most persuasive advocates. So there's a lot you can do to create shareable experiences, and these are ones that you're getting products into the hands of people because we know they'll go to great lengths to support the brands that they admire. These people really enjoy doing this because they, they like to be perceived as being thought leaders, and they've got a large following, and it's important for them to stay on top of what's new in their industry, and new products are coming along. So they are likely to go out there, take a lot of effort to spread the word to the people that follow them. And so a few ideas that work well are sampling, and we did a program with Neutrogena to get a sunblock out.
Yeah, and this is something where the product really can be the message, right? So instead of creating a new campaign with unique creative and a celebrity endorsement and things like that, you don't need to do that. Sometimes when a product just works really well and has some novel technology, it can work extremely well, and people will talk about it. So in working with Neutrogena Pure and Free Baby Sunblock, moms were so excited about how well this product worked that they created Facebook posts and blog posts and really wanted to let people know that the product worked as advertised. It didn't cause any allergic reactions with their kids. This was a winner. So again, back to Brian's point, people want to brag about good product finds that they find.
But not all products can be easily shipped off to people to try, and especially products that are frozen, like the Alexa frozen food product. So here we distributed coupons to people for them to get free products and discounted coupons from them to pass along to their friends.
So coupons, and there are some sites out there like, say Groupon.com. We've found that if you can design a good enough offer and it's relevant to folks, it can do very, very well and can accelerate very quickly.
And some products are probably a lot more expensive. It's not as easy to do either of those things. So some great ideas could be to distribute product information and education about how the product is used, and that's something that we saw with Michelin.
Yeah, Michelin is another one of our clients where we weren't able to ship out free product samples since they were so expensive, but we were able to get people to stop for a minute and think about tire safety. We sent them pressure gauges. We sent them cards to check their tire depth. We educated them about tire safety and what the real drivers are for tire safety. Most people don't realize that an underinflated tire is more dangerous than an overinflated tire. And so there's a lot of that kinds of content that you can get out there, make people think, and if it's content that's relevant, it ties to their everyday life, they will talk about it.
It's important to have safe tires when you have babies in the back.
Oh, nice setup.
Also, what's really effective here is exclusive information or kind of extended content that's not typically publicly available. Here with the launch of a documentary movie called Babies, we had a lot of video clips we were able to send out to bloggers and to other people who fit the demographic profile to share with the other moms that they communicate with.
Bloggers are always looking for new content to put on their sites. They never have enough things to say to keep their content fresh. What we did is we got exclusive B-roll footage and outtakes from this baby movie. We gave it to select bloggers, and they were delighted to incorporate that content into their blogs without even a fee.
And that's great. And maybe if they're so happy they could have a party.
Wow.
So parties also work great too. You can give sampling and coupons, but the idea of giving people a reason to get together or an excuse to get together and invite their friends over to try some products is a very effective method as well. And also events similar to that. These are probably more shopping events, and there was a couple that we did with L'Oreal where there was a very exclusive offer out just to the advocates of the brand, and the secret sale was so popular that people lined up outside the store or around the block just to get access to this.
Yeah, this is a fun story. This is for an oscillating mascara applicator where it was a mechanized applicator brush, and it was so novel and it was so scarcely available. It was only available in 2 cities in Canada. We had people waiting in line for 2 hours for these events that they only found out about through our social media programs. It was pretty cool.
Number 5 is increasing media coverage. We know it's not just the smart and authentic voice of consumers isn't just persuasive for other consumers. It's persuasive for the media as well, because we know that journalists turn to social media very frequently to research their stories. Here is the results of a study from Cision and George Washington University that shows how often journalists go to blogs and Facebook and Twitter. And I bet, the use of Twitter and Facebook and sort of technology product categories is much greater than this even shows. So here, there's a lot of ways that journalists use this media. They do it to identify new ideas. They look to kind of confirm ideas or storylines that they're working on, and they're looking for sources. They're looking for people to quote. And if there are a lot of people out there talking about you and your products, this is going to be a groundswell of enthusiasm that they're going to be able to feel. And it's going to be far more effective than an ad or a press release or the PR pitch that they're getting. It's going to be the buzz that's going to be surrounding them whenever they go online to talk about this product. Also, creating consumer videos is important. Everyone wants to be a star, and on the internet, they can, and they can be a star for you. Advocates, like we talked about, have large followings, and they want to be seen as thought leaders. So providing information on new products really helps them build their own personal brand so they can expand their following and their influence. And many are doing it with video, which is understandable because almost every phone now is a camera. So creating videos is very easy. There's a concept out there called haul videos where shoppers are coming back from a shopping trip and then creating videos reviewing their recent purchases. And I saw this quote from someone at YouTube saying that some of these haul videos now compare in viewership to major cable channels. So, while some people could just be talking to their friends, others with these large followings can have tremendous influence. And so, we see that a lot in some of the programs we work with, where people are more than happy to set up their webcam or their video camera and get across and create a product review video that's really very personal and very descriptive.
So these videos can be used in lots of ways. They can be aggregated and put on a brand website. They can be put on a brand social media channel, or they can even just be put in a program where you incite consumers to share them with each other. So we work with a company called Trend Micro, where we encourage people to create videos, share them with each other, and some of those popular ones are chosen for drawings and things like that.
Number 7 is adding product discussion on Facebook. Facebook pages are an important part of almost all marketing plans right now, and it makes a lot of sense because it's a great place for consumers are there. They're spending time there. They can interact with your brand much more than they can interact on your website. They can hear from other consumers, and what they contribute is also shared with their followers. Kind of build that momentum and that word of mouth. And here we're seeing in a lot of cases that the Facebook URLs for companies, are appearing on ads on television and on billboards and in print. And in many cases, they're appearing instead of the company's website. So that's how important these brands are to see their Facebook community.
And what's funny is that I think a lot of why they do this is because they figure that people are already there, that people are spending they're more likely to go over to a fan page that's already in Facebook where they're spending time than they would be to go to a separate brand site. But I'd say that by and large, the brands aren't doing enough with these brand pages. They're only going so far. They might be pointing them out to people, but I think there's a chance to do more there.
Yeah, and there certainly is, because when you're sending people there, make sure what you're sending them to is someplace that you want them to visit. Here's a high-profile, prominent company with their Facebook page really has no meaningful posts on it for the last 6 months or so. I mean, this isn't a community. People who are here probably don't even remember the fact that they liked or fanned this page months and months ago. Another one is something with CoverGirl, on the other hand, and what they've done is created something that's very meaningful and very persuasive for people who come visit here. You come visit the site, there's a lot of discussion. It's current every single day. There's a lot of great things to talk about, and it's meaningful. It's not just talk about the advertisement. It's about the product, and the brand is great about engaging people and getting them to really talk about what's important to them.
One of the things they've done here, which really brings that together, is the look library that they've built, where consumers take pictures of themselves before and after using different products, and especially trying to get some of the looks that CoverGirl talks about. So they upload a photo, they upload some information about what kind of look it ties to, which products that they've used, and they've created a library, a searchable library of looks that real consumers have created, not in a professional photo shoot, but just using their own digital camera to take pictures of how they look, and that's created a lot of credibility and fostered that community feeling that's happening within this fan page.
Yes, people can identify with people like them, and so if they're seeing photos or reading reviews, as detailed as this, they're going to walk away they're going to spend a lot of time on this page, and they're going to walk away with a really great brand impression. And there's a lot of fun things you could do on Facebook. Here are some other clever things to give people an incentive or a motivation to like the brand. Here's Lexus is doing something where if you like us, you'll get a special treat, a special surprise. But then you got companies like Panasonic who are offering something really tangible here for people that follow the page. Here it's a 15% discount on all the products on the Facebook store, which I think is a pretty compelling offer.
Yeah, people are taking the effort to like your page, make it worth their while, or even motivate their activity more by pulling out these fan-only offers.
So number 8, listening for threats, like we saw a couple of times on previous slides. It's really important to stay in tune with what's being said about you. And there's a variety of ways that you can do that. Here's just a visual of Radian 6, which is one of the social media monitoring tools. Kind of in one dashboard, you can monitor Facebook and Twitter and blog mentions across the web. There's free tools like Google Alerts, or you go to twitter.com and do searches on there. Or there's much more sophisticated tools that have a higher price to them, like Nielsen, Buzzmetrics, and Symphony, that apply more of a natural language processing on there to provide some automated sentiment analysis to really understand the discussion. So some of the things you can learn here are what influences someone's buying decision. If there are complaints, recurring complaints, you can identify them right away and keep them from snowballing, because what you don't want is a call from a reporter to be the first time you learn about an issue or a complaint. You may not be able to stop a negative story, but you can make it about your response and about your actions. If you're in tune with what people are talking about out there, you'll be as educated as the reporter is when they may call and follow up with you. And if you're honest and transparent, the community will often come to your defense and help you and help make the case and diffuse and solve the issue for other people, which makes for a very interesting story in itself. So now your product launch, your media phase of your launch is over, and when the bright lights of the launch fade, the conversations don't have to end. It's a great opportunity now to build your advocate network, keep them engaged, because when new enhancements or product line extensions or relaunches come up, you've got this audience of advocates you're able to tap into to keep that conversation going and really starting promoting what's new and exciting with your brand. So first you want to measure the sales impact, and there's been a lot said around social media being very effective at relationship building, and some people don't believe it can drive sales. We believe with some of these practices that we're talked about and these measurement practices that social media can be very effective at driving sales. We've got a whole ebook and a webinar topic on this we're happy to distribute to you guys as well that talks about these 4 measurement practices for determining a quantifiable return on investment for your social media practice. At the highest level, there's this market mix modeling, test and control, couponing like we talked about earlier, and surveys, simply sending out surveys and asking people how they feel about your product and who else they told. Market mix modeling is the most sophisticated way, and it does show how effective social media marketing can be in driving sales. It's a if you're not familiar with it, it's statistical analysis that predicts the impact of media spend and sales and ROI. It's a great view across channels, and it's used very widely with consumer packaged goods companies, and it's becoming adopted by many other industries as well. The analysis is led by third-party companies like Nielsen and ROI, who perform this data analysis and show you which media efforts are driving sales for your product. And we've seen in a variety of studies that we've been a part of that social media and word of mouth has been one of the most effective drivers of sales.
I think the big thing here is that so far social media, because it's so popular with consumers, because people are spending so much time there, it's gotten kind of a free pass in terms of accountability. Marketers feel the need to try to solve it. They need to try to figure it out, and they're going to spend some test money there. But in order for the budgets to really go up, in order for them to really take it, to really scale things up, and for the people on the services side of that equation, us namely, we need to do a better job of being able to assign programs to real business impacts, and there's no better business impact than product sales.
So number 10 is sustaining the conversation. Many companies think of social media like a campaign that has a start and an end date, but consumers don't think of it that way. Once they've got a connection with you, you don't want to leave them hanging. They've connected with your brand, and they want to continue that discussion because to them it's an ongoing process. And without continuous cultivation from you, the posts are going to get old on your page, the reviews are going to get stale, And then when someone comes to look at it, they're going to see that this stuff isn't up to date, and this product probably might not be something they're going to want to consider seriously. So we've seen in the market mix modeling studies, they've proven a correlation between conversation and sales. And if you remember that chart at the beginning of the presentation, that's when the sales can really start to grow and to pick up. So we say treat your advocates like you'd manage an ad campaign. Keep introducing new messages, new promotions, offers, contests. This is a group that is looking for things to talk about, and they want to talk about your brand. So keep feeding them that great information. And this is a great opportunity to sync it with your marketing calendar. So events, promotions that you're doing in other media can be reflected here, and these people can help to increase the effectiveness of those efforts as well. So number 11 is optimizing for influencers who deliver. It's important that as you've got your network that you're cultivating, it's important to understand who you're communicating with and make sure you're talking with the best performing advocates. And you need an easy way to measure that effectiveness. There's a few tools out there like Klout or Peer Index where you can put in someone's Twitter account or Facebook page, and they come up with an automated way to measure the influence. We've got some other methods that we think are a little more effective, because we think that just because someone is good about talking about a specific product category, they may not talk about your brand that much. We want to find out the people who are talking specifically about your company and who are doing the types of activities that you want to reward and you want to recognize. And people with large followings, people that are posting but not posting too many times, because that's the kind of stuff that other users don't want to see. Also, they're putting quality posts, and we know that by if they're getting a lot of likes, or if a post they make gets other comments. So we kind of calculate all this into our score, combining Twitter and Facebook and blogs, come up with another scoring methodology that we think is very effective.
So the key takeaway here is that not all online consumers are created equal. A fan, just because they've liked your brand on Facebook, doesn't mean that that they're an advocate. It doesn't mean that they're going to do anything productive. They might just be looking for sweepstakes entry. They might just be looking for a free product sample. So make sure that you're doing some due diligence to find the people who are going to have the reach, the knowledge, the relevance, and the credibility to create a real impact for your brand.
So number 12 is talking social. So you've done all this great work, you've got a successful campaign, and get yourself a slick-looking new hat. But it's more about just sounding hip when you understand the language. It's really important to understand the data and communicate it to different stakeholders in your company, and by communicating what's important to them and what they need to hear. And what they want to hear more often than not is the business impact. And so this was a great chart put together by the Altimeter Group that talks about, on the left side, the different roles of the organization, what type of metrics are important to them, and what are sort of examples of the data that they want to hear. So if you're talking about your fans, your followers, your click rates, your check-ins, all those kind of things, your community managers are going to find that very interesting. But the business executives, not so much. They're going to want to hear more things like share of voice and word of mouth and the sentiment of the discussions. And if you're talking to the executives, to them it's about revenue and reputation. And
before
customer service metrics.
And if they are going to be writing checks to do more of these programs, they're going to want to know, are you able to be driving real product sales and revenue? So this is the commercial part of the webinar, where we've gone through the main content we wanted to run through. But just a word on who BuzzAgent is, and it'll help give you some context on what we've been talking about. We are a social marketing company that uses word of mouth to drive sales. We have a network of 800,000 consumers who signed up to try products. So it's a volunteer basis where they get to try new products. They don't pay for the products, and we don't pay them to try them. In return for their involvement, we ask them to share their opinions, their honest opinions, with people that they know. That can happen online in places like Facebook, Twitter, or their blogs, and a lot of it happens through face-to-face conversations. We've been doing this for about 10 years, since 2001. We do a lot of work with Fortune 500 brands, especially CPG brands. One of the things that sets us apart from a lot of the social marketing companies is our focus on ROI measures and some of our approaches to FTC guidelines in the space. So about a year and a half ago, the FTC came out with new guidelines around consumer endorsements that brands need to be aware of before they do some social marketing programs. We are very current on those guidelines and have some unique technologies and methodologies that help us keep brands compliant with those. Some of the clients we've worked with over the past 2 years include CPG brands like Unilever and Colgate, and Clorox is Burt's Bees brand. Work with beverages or food companies like Pepsi and Kraft. But we also play in places like retail, quick service restaurants, and the automobile space as well.
Thanks, Malcolm. So we'd love to answer any questions you may have about these slides or about using social media in general in the promotion of a new product. Rob?
All right. So thank you again, Brian and Malcolm, for that. Let me go through the questions here. The first question is more of a comment from, I think, Brian Perry, who mentioned when you were talking about Facebook, he said American Airlines did a Facebook done a couple of weeks ago where they gave you X amount of frequent flyer miles if you left their Facebook page. So that's sort of another example of, giving something of value.
That's great. Yeah.
And again, I'm going to ask everyone, if you have questions, please feel free to go ahead and type them in the question area. We'll hang out for a moment or so. I was going to ask a question while folks are typing or formulating their questions. What have you seen in terms of, the steps you have outlined here are really great, and it certainly takes some concerted effort on a company's part to sort of go through this process. What have you guys noticed in terms of, the trend in budget allocations on the part of brands that really want to commit to, engaging in the space?
I think that they're much more sophisticated in terms of where they're spending the money. I think that some of the tools around advertising in social media certainly has gotten easier, but also in the earned media content that we've been talking about through most of this presentation has gotten easier and more sophisticated as well. So I think that the level of sophistication has gotten a lot higher. So the allocation, I think, has been based on benchmarking, surpassing benchmarks, and being able to associate performance, and performance is being measured by harder metrics like product sales or coupon redemptions or distributions, overall program reach. These are all things that have increased as people have been able to show surpassing certain category benchmarks or things like that. So I think that we've seen more budgets being allocated from core media budgets, core promotions, and PR budgets rather than the experimental funds that they were coming from a year or two ago.
I mean, that suggests it's really sort of certainly taking root within companies like it is among consumers.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think that consumers are ahead of this, and they typically are. Companies want to make sure that things aren't a flash in the pan before they really heavily invest in them. But I think that we are seeing brands really start to ramp up their investments in these areas.
The other interesting thing that this raises is the point I guess you're making that the social media has to be tied back to more traditional promotion tools and levers versus standing on its own in terms of justifying its ROI.
That's right. I think when social media was a new novelty, I think that brands felt that they had to politely observe and watch what people were doing, not necessarily actively shape what they were doing. And I think that one of the great things about promotions is that you can get people activated very powerfully with a good, well-designed promotion that's relevant and respectful of them. And I think that we're starting to see brands get that they can do that well in social media. And whether that's something that's tied to a cause marketing program or even if it's just tied to a specific product launch, consumers will engage, and they're going to be happy to engage if it's a well-designed program, especially for a brand that they believe in.
Great, great. We had a question about the presentation. Yes, we are going to have a copy of this deck available. Thanks to Brian and Malcolm. That will be available shortly, I think within the next couple of hours. And we will also have a recording of this in the members-only section of the PMA site so that folks can review it or share it with their colleagues who might not have been able to join us. We have another question from John Hartinger, who asked, are brands taking more from media or promotion/activation? I guess that's another question about more specific on where budgets are coming from.
I would say yes. I think that budgets are coming from all over the place for these programs. And again, it comes back to what are they doing in social? Are they looking to advertise in social? And if they're doing straight advertising, that typically is coming from a media budget. And so that would be like the ads in the well on Facebook. But when it comes to organizing a Facebook promotion, for example, that'll often come out of a digital budget. Sometimes it'll come out of a straight promotions budget, or it can even come out of PR. A lot of our programs, from Buzz Agent specifically, we're pulling from PR, promotions, and digital budgets, media less and less. It's really been owned by the brand manager making specific decisions about the best way to connect with consumers as part of the overall go-to-market plan. One thing that we've seen help them make that decision is how social media relates on an ROI basis to other media formats. And the real way to think about social media is that it's not a reach play, right? It's not the place where you're going to get all the eyeballs like a Super Bowl ad is. And I think that they have a realistic expectation of that now. But the benefit is, while it's not a mass reach vehicle, it can have a much higher ROI than straight digital display advertising. So that has been an eye-opener for a lot of brand marketers, and it's helped them make better decisions about how to reallocate their existing budget.
Great, thank you. And I'm just looking, I see some more questions, so this is great. Next one from Kale Robertson Daly. Hi, Kale. She wants to know, can you elaborate on the Neutrogena sample project, given that is what they do, her company does fulfillment. And from a fulfillment aspect, she'd be interested in knowing more about that project. I guess how you they grabbed the input and hand raisers from the social media space and actually got the product to them.
Yeah, so we actually have fulfillment as a core part of our offering. So we actually sent product samples of that product to targeted moms. So they needed to be moms of kids under the age of 1. So we're talking 1 month old to 12 months old, and we sent them product along with pass-along coupons and some specialized product literature that talked to them about the unique benefits of that sunblock. They have this is Johnson & Johnson. They have some patent-pending technology within that product that they wanted people to try, see, and believe, because they knew when they tried it they would talk about it, and that's exactly what happened in this case. But for that, it's about safely packaging that sample in a box, having an efficient way to fulfill that to people, and having a closed-loop system in place so you can get product feedback from them. When they talk about that product, either face-to-face, and in our system, people come back to our website after they talked about a product, and they tell us how many people they've talked to and what the nature of the conversation is. But also in online channels, we know when people post a comment to Facebook about the product, they do that through our site, so we can see that using Facebook Connect. Or through Twitter. We use a similar Twitter API, so we can see when they post to Twitter about that. The way that J&J and Neutrogena evaluated that program was on a marketing mix model basis. They were able to see how many products they sold in the specific markets where this program ran during the specific weeks when this program was running, and they were able to associate or attribute specific product sales to this program. They saw a very strong ROI from this program.
Very cool, very cool. Let me just see here if Kale is actually listening via the phone and see if she has a follow-up. Kale, can you say anything?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you guys did a wonderful job, and I'm curious to know, where are the two of you based out of?
Buzzage is based in Boston. We've been here since 2001.
Okay, and you are both based out of Boston as well?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Well, I'll be reaching out to you through Rob because I think you guys would make great discussion leaders for our Chicago chapter PMA meeting in June that we're having at Miller Coors. So I'll buy you a beer. But I know you come out from time. I know you come out from time to the Midwest because I know you visit S.C. Johnson occasionally.
Occasionally, yep. And we actually have 3 events coming up in Chicago where we're going to be speaking. So, yeah, we love Chicago. It's a great town.
Okay. I'm reaching out to you.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, thanks, Kale. All right, next question before we get to the end of this. Let's see, Brian Perry, again, wants to know, what are your thoughts on geo-targeting apps like Foursquare? I don't know if companies know how to use them, is his thought. Let me see, is Brian, are you there?
Hello?
Yeah, there you go. Well, maybe you can elaborate on your question.
Well, I'm just curious. I've actually have done some stuff with Foursquare, and I just don't know if companies really know how to leverage it. It seems that it was really big a year or so ago with Foursquare and all the other ones, but it seemed to die down a little bit, and I don't know if you guys have had any experience in dealing with those.
Yeah, you're right. They were the rage a year ago, and it has faded. I think that model is still trying to work itself out. I don't know if businesses really know how to use it appropriately. Now, with that said, businesses with a local presence, retailers, restaurants, small businesses, I think really find they could do some exciting things around that by offering specific offers for check-ins or for people who become mayors at their locations.
Right.
Yeah, Mashable ran an article. They were talking about Facebook after. I'm sorry, they were talking about Foursquare after the advent of Facebook Places, and they were saying that surprisingly they haven't slowed down that much. So I think that Foursquare is still thriving. I think that their user base, their active user base, is larger now than ever. And in my personal usage of Foursquare, I do see that there are a lot more local apps, and I think that's the way to think about it, is that for certain smaller businesses where the personality and the makeup of the owner and the clientele is appropriate, that it can be a very effective way to drive trial and build some loyalty among that user base. But I haven't seen a ton happen there with large brands. It's really been local brands.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yep.
All right. Any further questions before we wrap up? I don't see anyone else with hands raised. We've got about a minute left, and I'm going to let everybody get back to work. And, of course, here is contact information for both Malcolm and Brian. The deck will be available in the next couple of hours along with the recording of this session, so please feel free to share. And as Brian and Malcolm mentioned, they will be at the annual conference, Game Changer, April 5th and 6th in Chicago. So, come and you can hang out with them, and I encourage you to buy them a beer. So,
okay.
Anyway, want to thank you guys again, Malcolm, Brian, really informative session, and thank you all to our participants and attendees for joining us. Next webinar up is Tuesday. It's part 3 of our online shopper marketing enrichment series. So check out PMA Link for more information on that if you haven't signed up for that. And if any new members are out there, we've got a how to get the most of your PMA membership session coming up next Thursday as well. So always check the site. New webinars are being added all the time, and if you would like to suggest a webinar, please get in touch with me, rfields@pmalink.org. That's rfields@pmalink.org, and hey, happy to hear the topic and see what we can do. All right, everyone. Thanks again, and hey, let's all get back to work.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.